Greetings, Ranger fans, and welcome to another edition of Database Rangers Power Reviews Reviews, where we take a look back on our classic episodes of Database Rangers Power Reviews as we count down the 100 weeks to the 100th and final episode of the series. Welcome to those of you who are already in the chat. Good to see you, Sean. Nice to see you, Tino. Obviously, the big thing with this past week was Power Rangers Day on August 28th. And the big premiere of the 94th episode of Database Rangers Power Reviews. So we're getting closer and closer now. We only have 6 episodes left to go before the entire series is out. Still have almost 60 episodes left to go on these commentary tracks. But I was very pleased with how the episode came out. It was definitely very touch and go for a bit, but managed to pull it out at the literal last minute of Power Rangers Day. Premiered just before midnight, just before Power Rangers Day ended. So it was a Power Rangers Day miracle. Welcome Jenny, welcome Nightwing Josh, welcome Lex. Good to see you. You got to finish your virtual classes before you can play with your dinosaurs. Fair enough. And congratulations, Jenny, on your first 2 days of senior year. Yeah, that's right, Scott. We've got just over 13 months left to release the last 6 episodes of the series. And there's definitely going to be a lot of big stuff. Now that 94 is out and the big reveal from the end of 94... which I will note has been the plan since like the end of 2012. We're really ramping up to the final, final conclusion of the series. So I'm looking forward to the next remaining reveals as now the show doesn't need to quite play so much keep away as it has been. So I hope that you all enjoyed it. It was definitely it was definitely one way to end what was, I thought, a very an otherwise very fun episode. On a little bit of a darker note, so to speak. So it's it's hard to believe we're getting this close now. But we're rolling it through. I'm starting up teaching again next week, day after Labor Day. We go back to school, back to classes. So I basically just spent all day today planning out my schedule for the rest of the school year to make sure that I have enough time between classes and, obviously caring for RJ to find time to finish filming and putting together those final 6 episodes across the course of this next year. And it's looking good. I'm aiming for episode 95 to be coming out in October and episode 96 to be coming out in December. Those are going to definitely be a pair of pretty intense episodes, so I'm hoping that I can get all that squared away. And I'm glad that some of you enjoyed some of the big reveals there, as well as the many cameos that we had in 94. I was very pleased I could finally make use of that footage. I'd been holding on to it for 5 years. It was a little touch and go there with the audio, since that had been stored on the old camera, and it took me a while to get that transferred. But it all seemed to come together pretty well. Oh, Rosh Hashanah is coming up next week. Yep, my family is actually coming up to visit for Labor Day weekend. So we'll probably do at least a little bit of Rosh Hashanah celebrations before they head back. Yom Kippur is coming up. The fall hits you fast. So, speaking of jumping into things quickly, let's not forget our 3 Equally non-controversial phrases before we kick things off. Number 1, say with me, chat, Black Lives Matter. Number 2, say with me, chat, fascism is bad. And number 3, say it with me, chat, superheroes are fun. So let's take a look at some more superhero goodness as we jump into episode 42 of Database Rangers Power Reviews, the 12th episode of Power Rangers Megaforce, Last Laugh.
Previously on Power Review.
No legal record whatsoever
Transition.
that anyone named Database Ranger has ever existed.
You know, I always imagined that if a girl was to scream and run away from me, it would be because I kissed her out of the blue, not vice versa.
Database, I think you need to...
Yeah, right now we're focusing on the stuff from just the previous episode.
What on earth? And now, Database Rangers Power Review.
But yeah, for me, it, like, usually I know school is often on Wednesdays, but this year it's Tuesday, at least for my district. And here we go. This was such a fun routine to go through, just pretending to constantly be surprised even though there was nothing actually obviously there in the mirror. I really wish that I had cleaned that mirror a little bit better, though, in retrospect.
What on earth are you doing?
Nothing at all.
That was also when I was still on the first iteration of the glowy eyes before I started using lens flares more heavily.
Whatever I'm doing before I was here in this apartment with you reviewing Power Rangers, actually reviewing Power Rangers sounds like a great idea.
And this just kind of sums up so much of Database Ranger's character for so much of the series. It's like, I don't know what we were doing before we were reviewing Power Rangers. I don't want to be thinking about that. Let's review Power Rangers.
You know what's great? Laughter. Laughter is
Like,
great.
he is such...
What is life if we can't laugh at ourselves? Am I
He is
right?
so very much in such heavy denial about how absurd his life is.
Episode 12 of Power Rangers Megaforce.
Last laugh. So the Rangers are hanging out in an outdoor mall, street fair, marketplace.
Also,
place, and
I just had to be such high energy throughout all of this to try and keep that.
Aren't funny things fun? Let's hear a joke.
My voice was pretty dead, I think, by the end of this episode, if I remember right. Trying so hard to be laughing right now, and you just can't laugh at the whole stand-up routine here.
Encouraging him to let go and just have fun.
Well, there's nothing wrong with letting go sometimes. Unless, of course, that means letting go of your physical body and getting sucked inside a spiky gourd thing only to be slowly...
Oh, right, that was the plan of this episode with the, everyone who laughs gets trapped. This is one I have not seen in a very long time.
Charming. Then quickly ensconced with its captives as Brock explains his plans to Admiral Malcor.
Also, laughter is the best medicine, so long as you're not suffering from a hernia.
Meanwhile, the Megaforce Rangers have morphed in their pursuit of no...
Database is just trying so hard right now, and Megaforce is not helping.
I hate to say this, but that machine does have a point. Not that the
This
Megaforce
was
Rangers have
the first episode where they did start to actually make use of the more comedic elements of Robo Knight.
At least I believe that's what they're called, but she wasn't confirmed one way or another, and I'm starting to wonder if they ever will. Not that revelations regarding identity are a big deal or anything. No, Captain of the Top. Also, quick note to the Foley guys. If you have a character spinning around in a gliding motion and you add the sound of footsteps, you are really not helping us take him seriously.
It's just such... These creatures are so weird. Like, I know that they were all based off of various cryptids, but, like...
Just don't laugh! Thank you. after that quick statement of the obvious, we switch over to something that's actually funny. A clown!
That is
Funny with highly disturbing.
that is a terrifying
Taking
clown.
advantage of this particular instance of Schadenfreude, the monster encounters the Megaforce Rangers, who plan to use the Droid Templar and Megaforce Blue's lack of humor, by which I assume they mean the capacity for self-restraint, to take down the monster. Unfortunately, their teamwork still leaves much to be desired.
This is
Programming.
pre-Drax humor right there. It appears, I think that No Joke was based off of Tengu, but he's clearly, they're
No.
kind of playing fast and loose with that.
I recognize it as a viable attack strategy.
No Joke is so pleased with himself for capturing
Yeah, tickling is, like, if laughter is how you trap people, then tickling is a valid attack strategy.
Capture more of the easily amused populace. Seriously, I'm starting to wonder if he has a jangle your keys attack in store.
Wait.
So,
I actually got distracted by that in the same way Database did just now. That was not intended. My comedy sensibilities may have shifted a little bit since becoming a father. At this point, like, just moving your face
Oh no.
closer and then farther away is a laugh riot.
Oh no.
Oh, this... I don't know what...
This is getting painful. Can we just...
What is... What...
Well, I guess to each his own. Now that Troy has broken through...
Oh, and this was also before I had fully managed to figure out how to cut around the little extra frames that they get every now and again. I know that even some, like, professional YouTubers still make that same mistake. You always... Oh, my goodness. This... That... And there it was. The threshold was broken. Wind was broken, and that thus broke the threshold. I love this bit so much because I was just so broken. I was so broken that the show had decided to do a fart joke, and it also just set me up great for this little bit here with the mirror.
All right, that puts some things in perspective. Let's continue.
And now I remember why I was trying to watch the episode. But I can't believe that it has actually now become something that is recurring. Like, that was a major part of Victor and Monty's character. And that was ridiculous to me. Like... And this was the episode that started it. This was the episode that started the use of toilet humor in Power Rangers. And it's weird to think of it that now that was something that Power Rangers just never did up until this episode. And then, yeah, we had the toxic gas dino charger. We've everything with the beans on Victor and Monty. Like, it's so weird that we never had that before, and then it's now become just an accepted part of Power Rangers humor. And it's kind of sad, because I feel like that was never... that was just never part of its humor, and
Robo Dude really knows how to nail his delivery. And honestly,
I've
Noah's attempts at a solo act are a sorry sight to see.
I've never been a fan of fart jokes as a style of humor,
What do you think of it? Well,
and
certainly an
it was
interesting exploration.
it just feels like it's
Interesting.
it feels like it's very much like the easiest joke that you can make,
Horrendous.
and it's all about just a body function, and I've never found that to be like really a good source of humor. You can work with it with proper timing, ostensibly,
These are exactly the kind of
but
jokes kids tell each other.
Really?
uh,
Not exactly like either of us have much of a childhood to go off of.
That's true.
that's just such
Should focus to the
it's
story.
such a sad moment there. It's a sad moment, but it's a good bonding moment with Database Ranger and Dr. K both recognizing that neither of them had a real childhood. Dr. K's childhood was stolen from her. She was put into a think tank, grew up, underground, and Database has no memory of ever having been a child.
However, the actual threat that they're facing is another matter entirely. Despite all of their attempts to convey the gravitas of the situation, there is one simple fact that continually undermines one's ability to take them seriously. Due to this episode's treatment of laughter as something which cannot be controlled, Megaforce Blue is repeatedly regarded as someone with some sort of supernatural ability, when he is in fact simply the only character exerting any self-control, making his teammates appear downright incompetent by comparison.
Like, it's
But in this sea of bad comedy, there is one character that I believe deserves special mention for being.
it's so sad that none of them can fight it. But I guess you have to roll with the conceit of the episode.
It's Robo Knight.
This was the first episode where I actually enjoyed Robo Knight.
I find this highly disturbing.
It's true. He's the only one who has the comedic timing and deadpan delivery to actually make these terrible jokes work.
I'm also still surprised that Robo Knight, I believe, is voiced by like a former AD from the early days of the show, who came back and got to do the voice acting work for Robo Knight, and he actually did quite a good job. As frustrating as I found the character, especially in his first few episodes, he did a good job and delivered a lot of lines with very fun deadpan delivery.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
I'll prepare the tests then.
So,
And this is
make sure to
another
join
turning
us
point
next
for
time when we
Database.
take a look at episode 13
It's-
of Power Rangers Megaforce. Dream Snatch.
It is by and large
Power Ranger fans and
a very light, fluffy episode. But from a character perspective, it's a big turning point for him. The point at which he finally stops really running from who he is to try and find that out. As I said before, we had a similar turning point back in as we went from episode 36 to 37, where up until the beginning of sort of the end of 36, when he tried to stop the T agents from running away with Mayo, and then at the beginning of 37, where he decides that he's going to go after the people who took Mayo. That was his little switch of going from deliberately avoiding the plot to actually facing it. And this is a very similar kind of switch for him. Up until now, he's been very much avoiding the question of who he is, and now he's just decided to finally face that and discover it. He's very nervous about what the truth might mean for him. He doesn't know. He just wants to stay in that safe zone of being a Power Rangers reviewer. And he can't. There's things that he needs answers to, and he can't just run away from them anymore. And it's similar to actually what was addressed towards the end of episode 94. We in that most recent episode, we just had him addressing how his life has changed, the show, and all the stuff surrounding the fandom, or surrounding the franchise, isn't enough anymore. He needs to be actually, protecting the people he cares about, protecting the world he cares about, taking action, acknowledging reality for what it is. That's really a big part of his character arc throughout the series. And that's what a huge part of year one is. He doesn't have as much of a character arc during year two, just because of all the different things that happened to him in year one. And year two is really more about developing everyone else. But this was the big character arc that led to him, finally discovering who he is by the end of the season. And after that, there's sort of the we then get into the darker side of things. His first encounter with the landlord, his internal debate over who or what the landlord is and how he may connect to him, what his dark side is, and we get to explore that big time during the fall season of year two. He gets to explore these darker sides of himself, the things that he was to a certain extent very afraid to face during year one. And now we're in year three, and he's just kind of leading the charge to try and, save the world. And I really like that we've been able to have that big character arc for him. I really did want to sort of explore that journey to becoming a hero in a number of different ways. The decision to start interacting with others, the decision to start taking action, the decision to start looking into oneself, the decision to start looking into the darkness within oneself, facing that darkness, coming out the other side, learning to, to trust others, not just to care for them, but to trust them as well. All of that is stuff that happens, to him over the course of those first 80 episodes. And all of the characters sort of learn and grow, even as they're very much pushed to their limits across the course of this series. Yeah, it is kind of funny that, like, yeah, you're right, Scott. There's nothing relating to memes in this episode. Nothing about this episode really turned into much of a meme. Although I think I do make one more reference to No Joke. I think in Trickster Treat, if I recall correctly. And that is a very fun episode that I'm very much looking forward to covering in 2 weeks. I always enjoy the episodes where we really get to play around with the structure and format of the show and really get to go sort of almost free association with the side story. Episode 94, very recent, that got released last week. Similar vein where I really got to play around with experimenting with a bunch of different things, including medium shifting, which was something I realized I'd never done with the show before, playing around with 2D and 3D representations of the characters. So that was fun to play around with, and something I hadn't gotten a chance to do with the show before. And we've gotten to do a lot of things, like for a series where every single episode is reviewing episodes from a singular series or singular franchise. we've gotten to play a lot with how many different approaches you can take to doing a review of the same show. And I feel like most review series don't really get to do that. Very rarely do, although it's become more common now, but back when I first started this, very rarely would you have a YouTube series where they were just reviewing an episode of a show every week, and that was the entire thing. At the time, it was mostly either, they'd be reviewing an entire television series, or they'd be reviewing a movie, and or a comic book in the case of Linkara. And each time you'd be seeing something from, it would be a different movie or a different TV show or a different comic series. Whereas here with Power Reviews, I wanted to see how much you could, instead of pushing for variety in what was being reviewed, push for variety in how it's being reviewed. And as we'll see as the episodes wear on, we do play around with that, more and more. Obviously, the summer season of year one was a big change in format as it became almost the backdrop to an adventure story. We'll see we've seen reviews where they're sitting down on the couch talking about it. We have solo characters sitting around talking about it. We have rotating people talking about it. We have somebody talking about it entirely an internal monologue. We have somebody explaining an episode to somebody else. We have the episode being framed as if it's a story that somebody's telling of something they actually experience. Or something that, somebody they knew experienced. There's just so many different ways that we can play around with the idea of a review. And I feel like we've gotten to explore that a lot across the course of the series. But yeah, this one was definitely one of our shorter episodes. This one was just under 13 minutes. Now, obviously, most episodes are almost twice that length. The most recent episode was, I think, about 26 minutes. I still have yet to crack half an hour, but I am willing to bet that at least one of the final episodes will probably be over half an hour, just going off of script length. I'd be shocked if, episodes 98, 99, or 100, if not at least one of those, if not all three, were over half an hour, but we'll see. So, yeah, not too much to discuss on this one outside of just I was probably exhausting my voice trying to keep at that high level of energy throughout all of this episode. Clearly, there aren't a lot of plot developments in this episode. It's really just that one little character flip. As things are sort of paced out a little bit more slowly during this time. And in terms of pacing, I do try and have there be at least one solid thing surrounding the arc of the review. Whether it's, seeing Guy go through a very bad day, or, the landlord trying to make a point to database, Mayo trying to figure out how to keep everyone together. Every review is supposed to be, to an extent, the characters working through something. And I feel like that's managed to carry throughout the whole series. But as I said, this one was a pretty short one, so there isn't too much more to explore. I know I went on a bit of a tangent there. And obviously, I'm very excited about 94 having come out last week. So if you haven't seen it, please check it out. If you have seen it, please share it around. I think that it is probably one of the more accessible episodes that we've had recently, even though it had that major reveal at the end of it. Just because if you're a Power Rangers fan and you haven't been following Power reviews, you can still get the premise of the episode. You can still get a lot of the jokes. You can still enjoy it. So I hope that we accomplish that with episode 94. So definitely keep sharing that around. Let's try and keep that subscriber count rising. I would really like to hit 5K before the series ends. And I'd like retire or whatever it is. And thank you for sticking with it. Thank you for joining me tonight. And before we say our farewells, let's not forget our other 3 equally non-controversial phrases. So, number 1, say it with me, chat. Love is love. Number 2, say it with me, chat. Trans rights are human rights. And number 3, say it with me, chat. Robots are cool. And sometimes they can even be pretty funny. So thank you all very much, and until next time, farewell, Ranger fans, and let the power protect you.